So Nicky Moffat's session was about what makes inspiring managers and using motivational leadership. Nicky was a brigadier in the British Army until a while ago, so her experience around leadership and motivation were fascinating in as much as she led ultimately teams of 4,000 people. So that's what you call a pretty major role, really, isn't it? I think the things that Nicky spoke about rang massively true around leadership. She started from the perspective that in organisations we don't really value leadership very well. We don't prioritise it, and I think she's right. Well, she is right, because if it was otherwise, we would have significantly very good leaders, very good managers throughout organisations consistently. And let's face it, we don't have. We have leaders and managers that that are not very effective, that do not know how to work with their teams and with the people across the organisation. They may or may not get the results they want, but the way in which they do that doesn't often work. And actually, I would argue, as a result, the organisations aren't as successful as they could be. So Nicky's thoughts around getting to know your team, getting to know the people you work with, is bang on. And it brings in the whole, for me, diversity and inclusion issue there. Because the point she makes is that, coming from our own background, so, whatever background you're coming from, how are you going to necessarily know about somebody else's background, and how are you going to understand them? How do you know about their own background, their thoughts, the way they do things? You're not. So you need to get to know them, you need to talk to them, you need to work with them, you need to find out about them. Otherwise, how can you work with them and motivate them? You're going to find that a problem. The point she made is that although she was a senior leader in the armed forces, that actually the skills, the issues, the requirements are the same in any organisation. And she went through key things around building trust, being open and transparent, around how decisions are made, and particularly around promotions and roles like that. But I think, clearly trust and transparency are key in any organisation. She talked about rewarding people in the moment, of course constructively, appropriately, but doing it as soon as you can to make it directly impactful and relevant. So she talks about the importance of valuing all roles, whether that's the rainmakers, or whether that's people that are supporting them. Every organisation has a wide range of roles involved usually, and everyone is valid and important. And people see that if you don't value them, the people themselves and everyone else. She talks also around the importance of being really mission focused, cutting the crap basically, to ensure that you've got a clear focus, you know where you're going, and don't ask people to do stuff that's not necessary. And essentially what she was talking about, I wouldn't argue about at all. What I didn't get was kind of the how. So that was very much about effective leadership. That is, I guess, what helps to motivate people. But I'd be really interested to look at how does the Army work with their managers and leaders to make them really effective. So from a learning and development perspective, what does that look like? Because I think those are the challenges that we have in L&D. If you think about the leadership programs we have in place, the ones we're working on, I'm sure we all are, I know I am, what do they look like? How do they work? It's not just about putting a session on or putting a program on, it's about embedding that experiences, embedding that learning back into the workplace. There's no doubt, I can tell, in the Army that learning transfer takes place. I would love to hear her talk really about learning transfer in the context of the Army. I think that would have been really interesting. So for us in L&D, in a non-organisational field, it's very much about, well, we can look at sessions, we can look at programs, but how do we really make that work? Because something's going wrong. So I'd be interested in your thoughts. How can we make it better? What can we do about that? There's still a long way to go, I think.